Hello and welcome to Verbal to Visual. I am your host, Doug Neill. And today I'd like to share with you this document that I'm using to help me track my progress while I build up a buffer of videos that I will be publishing to YouTube so that I can create some space in my life for two things specifically. First, a 10-day road trip that my wife and I are going on in 3 days. And then after that, some work that I'll be doing on the course of digital sketchnoting. I found that it's been hard to focus on the next stage of development in that course while also making videos for this YouTube channel and making podcast episodes and keeping things going within the Verbal to Visual community where we've got weekly activities and 2 live monthly webinars. So that's why I decided to build a buffer. I talked about this in a previous video that I'm pretty sure will go out before this one called How I Create My Own Sabbaticals. But I thought it would be helpful to actually kind of walk through this tracking system that I'm using, because whenever you try to do any sort of batching, spending a solid chunk of time creating a set of things where you can kind of stay in the same work mode, what I've realized is that it's kind of easy to get stuck mainly in this brainstorming stage where you're spending a lot of time on the initial development of a lot of different ideas. For me, it's a bunch of different videos I want to make. For you, maybe it's blog posts that you want to write, or lessons for a future course that you want to make, or maybe podcast episodes. So the creation of a kind of visual reference like this is helping me to stay on track because, first of all, I've identified the purpose for building this specific buffer, that 10-day road trip and work that I'm excited to do on digital sketchnoting. So that keeps kind of the purpose top of mind. But then I've also got a space here to outline the individual videos that I want to make and the major steps in the creation of those videos. So my general process for making videos like these, there's some sort of a brainstorming and drafting stage, deciding what I want to focus on, the types of visuals that I might include, and maybe even rough drafts of the specific sketch note that I might record. Then it's the actual recording of the sketch note, maybe with a top-down camera, which I often use, maybe with some sort of a screen sharing like this. And depending on the recording style, sometimes the sketchnote recording happens separately from recording the narration. So that's the third step. Then of course I have to edit the video, prep the blog post. And if I get through those stages, then I'm kind of ready to hit publish on that individual video. And even though the goal when building a buffer like this is to get as many of these videos to that ready to publish stage, I've also recognized that it's the first 3 steps that are the most challenging, the most time consuming, the most creative, energy intensive. That's why I've kind of identified for myself, okay, it's really these first 3 steps that I want to emphasize. So with this road trip coming up in just a few days, that helps me focus on not really worrying getting to the last 2 steps in this process for all of the videos that I'm working on, but instead focusing on those first 3 steps. So I've got kind of the creation process laid out here, and I've identified the specific videos that I'm going to be working on. And it's this listing out of the videos that helps me kind of identify a finite number of them to actually create. And this list here might even be too long for the time that I have, but at least I've identified a list that's not, 50 ideas long. It's just 10 or so. And it was in the creation of this list when I told myself, okay, these are the only videos that I'm going to work on as I'm building this buffer. If other video ideas come to mind, I'll jot them down, but they're not making it on this list because this is already plenty for me to work with the time that I have. One exception to that is this video that I'm creating right here. This is somewhat of an impromptu video because I just recorded the narration for the video decision-making tree for sketchnoters. So I'm going to add that checkbox, add that check mark there. And I really enjoyed this format for creating a video. So I kind of looked through my projects and saw if there was another example of something that I'm using, some sketchnoting related resource that others might be interested in seeing. So because of that, I actually will add one more video to this list, which means I have to think of a tentative title for this video. Could have a buffer in the name, could have kind of track your projects. I think I'm going to go with a visual record for buffer building. That name might change. You will know by now what the actual title of it is. I'm going to go ahead and select and copy those checkboxes there, which is a tool that I really like within Concepts. I've already done the drafting and brainstorming because this document is already there. I've already kind of recorded the sketch notes, and I guess what I'm doing now is recording the narration. So I will check that third box off once I hit stop on this recording. But one other thing I wanted to point out here was some things I'm doing with color. You'll notice that some check marks are in black, others in blue. And that's because I've actually been sharing this progress chart within the verbal to visual community. I actually added a new kind of forum to that community called Progress Log, which is a place where I encourage folks either at the beginning of the month or at the beginning of a new project to kind of sketch out that project in some format, post that, and then kind of let us know how it goes as you take steps on it. So after creating this here, I shared it within the community so that I could have a little bit of external motivation and a place to celebrate checking off some boxes. And kind of each time I share an update here, the new things that I've done are in blue, just to have kind of like an up-to-date record of here are the latest steps that I've taken. So with that in mind here, I'm actually going to change the color of that to black because that was a previous update. That one's new. This one's old. These ones are old. Hope I did that right. And that's what I'm doing right now. So that's still relevant. And that, sure, we'll change these two. See if I did that right. Cool. Well, almost. So if you are spending some time making different versions of the same type of a thing, again, this example is making YouTube videos about sketchnoting, and you maybe want to do some batching where you focus on making a bunch of those within a couple of weeks or maybe a month, you might consider creating something like this for yourself, identifying kind of the major steps in the creation process, maybe also identifying some motivating factor for completing this specific set, and then include each of the individual things that you're making so that you can track the progress. And also so that you can remind yourself not to spend time brainstorming new ideas right now, because first you need to finish making the ones you've already started. And if you're in a kind of work in public or learn in public type mindset, maybe you can share the initial plan here and then updates over time with whatever communities you're engaging with online. So I hope this walkthrough was helpful, that maybe my specific example here gave you some ideas to run with. If you create your own version of this type of diagram, do share it with me. I'd love to see it. And if you're newer to the world of capturing ideas in a visual way like this, then check out my free guide, Getting Started with Sketchnoting. I have linked to that down below this video. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck creating your own buffers and making whatever the things are that you make, and I'll see you again in the next video. Till then.